Buddy, my name is Ann Pillsbury, and welcome to Pivot on Purpose, my weekly live show that features inspiration and information for women navigating the second half of life. Today, I have Veronique Savoye, who is a you're in-person and virtual tour guide, adult educator, content creator based in the Loire Valley of France, and has shared her love of France and French culture with North American audiences and clients virtually or in person for more than 2 decades. I'm so excited to have her here. We have known each other for 15 years, I think. Our kids went up to elementary school, right?
Yeah, that is correct. We were neighbors.
Oh, I can't. Hold on, I can't hear you. All right, are you there? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know what happened there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. So
Perfect.
welcome.
Tech stuff. We love it.
It's always sort of one of the biggest opportunities for learning, and as we launch our own businesses in midlife, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Been there, done that, Anne.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your story. You've had a lifetime of pivoting, but specifically maybe the past 10 years and how your early life may have informed your time now.
Yeah. A lifetime of pivoting thanks to our parents who moved us around France every 4 or 5 years. So my brother and I were used to pivoting and making new friends and changing schools, just like military kids, you know?
Yeah.
But the last 10 years have been a lot of transitions following my divorce, not quite 10 years for the divorce. I was in the United States at the time where I lived for, as you know, for more than 2 decades. And after the divorce, I decided to return to the corporate world because the business I was running part-time while raising my son wouldn't pay the bills for me. So I returned to the corporate world after 20 years. So that was already something. And I was in my late 40s at the time.
Well, and it was really amazing because you secured a very good position. You were director at a school, correct?
Yes, I found a really good position with a British company, and I ended up after 3 years running their 2 ESL, English as a Second Language schools in the Seattle area. I worked for a great woman I really enjoyed. She was from Switzerland, had lots of colleagues, and it was education, back to education and teaching, which is what I seem to gravitate towards anyway. So that was great. But at some point in time, I decided I needed to return to France after all that time in the United States. It would take too long to explain now. Plus, one day I'll write a book where I explain all this. So I'm not going to do that now. So I basically resigned from that very good corporate position. And I was in my 50s at that point. And I cannot tell you the feedback I heard from some family members about doing this. But I said, I need to go back to France. And I did. I resigned, and without really
how did you know that it was time and that you had the confidence to be able to do that? Like, did you just have an inner knowing that you're going to be okay, or you was just like, screw it, I got to do it?
I had no idea if I was going to be okay. I just hoped I was going to be okay. And I prepared a lot. You know me, I'm a planner. So I didn't just go and say, oh, I'm going to leave Seattle after 20 something years and move back to France where nobody's waiting for me because, So no, I prepared a lot. I researched a lot. I knew that repatriation was pretty much like preparing for expatriation. I was ready for that. The job market, though, was a little bit iffy because I was in my 50s. And if you know anything about the job market in France, you know that a salaried position after you're 45, if you don't have a network, and by that time I didn't have much of a network left there, it's going to be very hard. So I thought, it was a gamble. I said, I'm going to try. And I thought I'd rely on my community, the blog, and do something with that. At the same time, I decided to pursue an opportunity that I had really wanted for many years, which was to work as a tour guide for Rick Sees Europe, which I got familiar with while I lived in Seattle. And I had made contacts there. So after resigning, and I want to say that after resigning from my corporate position, about a few months before I relocated, I reached out to them, found the guy I used to know there. He helped me out. I interviewed, and they decided to hire me as a tour guide. So at least I knew that when I was going to hit France, get back to France in March of 2019, I would have an opportunity to train as a tour guide. It's not a salaried position. We're not employees. I would work as a contractor, but at least it was something, and it was something I had wanted to do for a long time.
Well, and
So
I mean,
that
I
gave
just
me hope.
remember you wanting to do that for years.
Yeah,
You wanted to do that. It was on your, and you kind of picked at it and you thought about it and you made your contacts, you
yeah,
made your inroads.
yeah.
And it's such a great example of like, you leapt and the net appeared for you. And it was the exact net that you had ordered.
Yeah, it worked out. Maybe I was a little lucky on this one. So, but were you one of the unfortunate friends I dragged to their annual guide workshops or travel workshops every year? Because some of our friends were, attending those travel presentations. And I did a little bit of that myself when I had my business in Seattle, travel presentations on France and such. So it was meant to be. I think it was really meant to be. That's why I pursued it. And so in 2019, I came back here ready to start a new career. I was by then in my mid-50s, lived in about 200 square feet in Paris under the rooftops. That's all I could find. It's very hard to find places in Paris if you don't have a salaried position. And they trained me extensively. I was on the road a lot that year. It's a company that really trains people well. So I was very lucky. Hopefully, looking forward to 2020, my first touring season with them. And did spend the winter researching, learning, brushing up of my French history and all that. So I'd be ready to start. And then you know what happened? March 2020, my birthday month. Basically the world stops turning. COVID is here, and all the tours were pulled, and there was no job. There were no jobs. There was no work, and the tourist industry was hit. So
that must have been really terrifying.
It was, because I was in a 200 square feet apartment with no job, no, I had savings. I was not desperate. I had savings. I had planned for that. Not COVID, but I had some money put aside. And I said, okay, action plan. And I remember I treated myself to a weekend in Versailles. And they closed literally the chateau on me because of the government announcements that the first lockdown was coming. So I was in the hotel that morning. It was so weird. It was like being in one of those movies where everybody leaves and the room is empty. There was the breakfast buffet. I'm sitting at my table drinking coffee, and I had my little red notebook to take notes about business ideas. So I did that before I left Versailles, hopped on the train, came home, and the lockdown pretty much started 3 days later. And it was a 55-day strict lockdown where I didn't see a soul for 55 days, I just want to say, and I could go outside 1 hour a day with a permission slip. And this is the time I used to start the business that really saved me, to put it plainly.
So tell us where that started. So first of all, tell us what your business is now, and then where it started way at the back of the beginning.
All right. The business is called Friends with Vero. It's all online. Well, most of it. And I wear many hats. So Rick Steves, of course, now is back, which means during the touring season, I lead groups of North American travelers around Paris and La Belle France. So that's one. And then I lead tours in my city here in the Loire Valley in Tours when people visit me. And I'm also a virtual tour guide. The core of the business was being a virtual tour guide and sharing Paris and France with people who couldn't travel anymore for almost 2 years. And then I also resumed teaching French, which I did in Seattle with a little business I ran for more than 15 years. So I wear all these hats. And on top of all that, it's content creation, because I have a Patreon program, and I try to be really good to my patrons, and I just constantly create content, whatever the format is, and continue sharing Paris and France with them. So this is what I do now.
And so your virtual business, your online business started as a blog that you wrote. You've been writing for many years, right? As kind of way to stay connected to France and share your experience and your love for the country.
Absolutely, because I didn't want to bore my friends to tears. My friends like you were very nice, but I just couldn't keep talking about. I was getting very homesick in the last few years when I was in Seattle, and I didn't want to bore all my good friends to tears talking about France all the time. And I figured, well, maybe if I start a blog, blogs were pretty big then. If I start a blog, and I did, it was called French Girl in Seattle. And the community started with the neighbors and friends, and then it grew, and then I met other bloggers. And so it grew. And next to that blog, I built a community on Facebook from my suburban kitchen in where we lived outside Seattle. And I remember people saying, why do you spend so much time on Facebook? Every single day I'd be sharing news about France remotely since I was in Seattle. And so that community grew and grew and grew with the blog. And so this is essentially the community that saved me in 2020, because when all the, my tours disappeared, I didn't have any more work with Rick Steves, then I reached out to that community on Facebook. It was essentially a hobby at the time. And I said, help me out. I'm going to start teaching French online. I'm going to start a Patreon program. Who's going to help me with this? And in return, I guarantee you're going to be connected to Paris and France. And that's how the business was born.
And it was such a gift to people during COVID.
It was, because people were craving Paris. And so not that we could go out very much, so I could share information when I couldn't go out because of the lockdowns. I did some events like the live stream every week. I did it on Instagram called Apéro with Vero, where we listened to a French song, talked about a topic on French culture, and just talked to people, interacted. It helped me out so much as well. People will say, you helped us. I said, you helped me too.
Yeah,
because I
it was a mutual thing.
In that tiny little closet under the rooftop. Yeah. So, and that's how it all started in the spring of 2020.
So when I'm working with my clients in my coaching program, I talk about that kind of sweet spot between skills, experience, and passion. And it looks like you seem to be able to kind of tap into those three things throughout your career as you have needed to pivot according to life circumstances.
Well, I was never one of these people who know what they want to do their entire life. Early on, I wanted to be a teacher, and look at what I'm doing now. So sometimes things, you come full circle, right?
Yeah.
But then I went very different ways, and I pivoted, as you say, quite often between the corporate world, doing my own thing, teaching. I did a lot of that. And I found that I have used every single thing that I have learned in the corporate world, in France, in the United States, or on my own, and put it together in that business that I have now. Marketing skills, leadership skills, everything I use. So it wasn't, it makes me feel good, because I know I may not have known, like some of my friends, what I wanted to do with my life, but everything I've learned, I've been able to use, and it's still helping me today.
And you might not have known what you wanted, but you knew you were passionate about learning and education, and you also teaching, and you also have always known you've been passionate about France and traveling.
Exactly. I love France. I love to share, talk about France. And so there was, it's one of the perks, I think, is to be, to reach, the young age that we are now, is to be able to look back and to see a lifeline, and to see the main thread, the lifeline of, and it's like things fall into place. Maybe this is why it was meant to be. This is why I did this. And because I did this, I did that. And so it starts to make sense, which is very calming, because
it is.
I haven't wasted my time. These things have happened, and look, it's all making sense now. So that's good.
Yeah, I do an exercise with clients where we go back, and it's like you write your perfectly written novel. So you go back through the 10 years increments and write kind of the highlights. And so you can see that through thread. And then I think it's kind of beautiful, because then it makes you relax into knowing whatever's coming is going to be what's the perfect thing for you next, right? Because you have confidence that it will all, you're always learning, you're always being led. You don't necessarily control, you don't have that choice. But if you follow your heart, follow what's next, just take that next right step. I mean, I think that's what you also did amazingly well, is you just kind of took that next right step as it rose in front of you.
Yeah, and it was actually good. And I try to always see the silver lining. I think it's the expression. No matter what happens, even if there's first panic or horror or anger or whatever, I quickly calm down, and then I try to see the silver lining, because there is always one. There is always one. And so, and that's what the last 2.5 to 3 years have taught me. I used to be a perfectionist. Everything had to be prepared and planned, and I'm still a planner, but I have learned to be so much more flexible when things happen. So, virtual tours, the technology, the cell signal drops, it happens all the time. It's taught me to be a little bit more humble. Like, you can't control everything, and what, in the end, one of my best friends' expression, nobody's died. In the end, nobody's died. You'll get over this. It's not a big deal. Yeah.
Right.
And so that's what I've learned the most from the last 3 years. There's always a way out, and you're going to learn something along the way. Just keep going. You'll figure it out. There is always a door that will open. And that's what I've done for the last 3 years.
Yeah. So many women are our age or get so overwhelmed by technology, right? So like, how did you learn how to do all this stuff? Did you take classes? Did you just trial and error, or how did you learn all this
I
stuff?
was building a business and there was no time to take classes.
Yeah.
If I am a good student, I'm a lifelong learner. If somebody
Mhm.
explains something to me clearly, I learn fast. So I did research on my own. I stumbled, I made mistakes. I had one good friend who's also a content creator. And if he listens to this, he'll know who he is. He helped me out. I helped him out with other things, and he helped me out with the tech stuff. And I reached out, I said, how do you do this? So it's nice to have a friend on your side who helps you with that kind of stuff. Other than that, I just fumbled through it and did my best and made lots of mistakes.
Yeah. And I feel like too, it's not as hard. I mean, they've made technology so that it's just you have to do it for a while and then you figure it out. But it does take that trial and error. And when you're a perfectionist, like I tend to be, and you probably, that you are, the end product doesn't look exactly like how you want it to for a while, but you eventually get there, right?
You get there. I think it's sad to be stopped by technology like I have been. And so now I've come to the conclusion that because my time is limited, my skills are somewhere else. And that's okay too. Like I never feel guilty anymore about not being able to do this or that because I know my skills are somewhere else. So then you have two options. You fumble through it and waste a lot of time, or you try and hire somebody who's going to do it faster and better. And that I think is going to be what I'll be doing more of in the next couple of years is, what is it? What's the word I'm looking? Delegating to people who can, who have skills I don't have, because otherwise you can't do everything. There's just so many hours in a day.
Yeah. So what message do you have for women who are, who've been either thrown into some kind of change or are thinking of trying to create some kind of change in their life? Do you have any words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom.
Yeah.
I'd say one, I really think that women are a lot stronger than some of them know, including on their own. I see a lot of women thinking that nothing will happen if they are on their own. That's not true. You're a lot stronger than you know. Number two, you've got to work hard. Nothing's gonna happen unless you're really lucky. There's some people like that, but it's gonna take a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of preparation. And then you'll need a lot of courage because there'll be times when you'll be really discouraged, especially if you're on your own running that business or making that transition, that move. And in the end, I think we all need just a little bit of luck. In French, we say un peu de réussite. So if all of this is together, if all of that is combined, it's going to happen.
It's that sweet spot of preparation and luck, right?
Preparation, luck, resilience,
or opportunity.
persistent.
I guess it's like it's work and it's preparedness and opportunity. And
yes, because opportunities will come, and then you need to be able to identify them, and you'll decide if you want to let them go or if you want to grab them. But yes, opportunity will definitely come. And I think the difference between people who step forward, jump and do it, and the people who are afraid to jump is the opportunity is there, and at some point it's enough thinking, enough preparing, enough planning. Just go for it. And for perfectionists, it's not that easy to do. It's
right.
but you get better at it.
Yes. Well, and perfectionism is actually a form of self-doubt.
Perfectionism is actually a form of self-doubt. I'll have to mull that over with a glass of wine.
Yes.
I shall.
Yes, you shall. Well, thank you so much. This has been so wonderful. And I think that everybody, I guess one more thing I want to touch upon, because so many women, get to choose to stay home with their kids and then are so worried they're not going to be able to make that transition back. But I think you're such a great example of, like, once you got the opportunity, you had the skills and abilities and were quickly able to make that happen and be really successful at your job.
Yeah, I think the skills are there. And whether you
Yeah.
stay at home for 10 years or 20 years taking care of your kids, the skills are still there. You may feel rusty. It's like getting back on a bicycle after a long time, right?
Mhm.
The first
Yes.
try, you're going to be a little, but then
Hmm.
after that, it comes back to you really fast. So I'd say, it's not because you stopped working or took time off to raise your children that you forgot everything you learned before that. And if you haven't learned it, you can still learn it now. You
Yeah,
can
the
still learn it
lifelong
now.
learning piece, right?
Yep.
We're staying,
Yep.
that keeps us young to be learning, constantly learning and moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Awesome. Well, thank
otherwise,
you.
you're
And
welcome.
so, Vera, where do people find you?
Oh, well, they found me Friends with Vero. All my virtual tours, all my virtual adventures are uploaded on the YouTube channel, Friends with Vero. And I create content, stories, etc. Weekly on Facebook and Instagram. So these are the three main things. And then, of course, I run this Patreon program that helps save the day when the going got tough in
So tell
2020.
people explain a little bit what a Patreon site, explain a little bit what that means for people who might
Uh,
not know.
Patreon is like crowdfunding. It's a community that supports creators. So people who like a creator, a musician, a sculptor, a content creator, whoever, sign up for a membership. It's a membership, monthly or annual, and you basically give a small amount of money each month to this creator, hopefully in return for some rewards and exclusive content and events. And that's what I spend a lot of time doing for my patrons. So I think the
Mhm.
website is patreon.com/friends with Vero, and you can see what it's all about there because it's all laid out and clearly explained. But it's really saved the day, that and my French classes, and that's why I spend so much time creating things for my patrons, because without them, I don't know what would have happened in 2020, and I'm not about to forget that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much. And I just also want to offer anybody who's watching, I have a resource for women who are wanting to pivot, and it's 10 clues to help clarify your pivot. So if there's some kind of transition you think you might be wanting to make, but aren't quite clear on what that looks like, you can go to my website at annepillsbury.com and download it. And it's free, and it's kind of a fun exercise to help you uncover the map of what's next for you.
May I just say
So,
something?
oh, of course.
Anybody who chooses to work with you will be in very good hands, because I remember very well that long before I launched this business of mine, we were friends and neighbors. You were the one who had the marketing, the head for business and marketing, who said you should do something with this blog, this community, and you were always so encouraging and always asking the right questions. So whoever works with you is going to be in very good hands.
Oh, thank you, Vero. I remember I was so excited I just knew it in my heart. Like I knew it all along that
You
it was
did. You
meant
were
to
like a
be.
cheerleader. And
I
see, it
know.
took a while. It took a while, but I made it happen.
Yes, you did. All right. Well, I miss you and have a go. It's nine
Same.
o'clock in France, or 10 o'clock probably now. So Vero
Yeah.
is going to
What time is
bed.
it? It's almost 9:30 p.m.
Yes, yes. So put your feet up and have a good evening. And